With a wide range of uses, and with almost every organization and company using Microsoft Excel, it can almost be considered a life skill to survive any corporate or organization setting to have knowledge about using Excel. That is also why a lot of these companies include Excel interviews or tests in their recruitment processes. So in this video, we're going to be talking about a few tips and tricks so you can ace that Excel interview. Depending on the nature of the business or the role you're applying for, your Excel interview could be a couple of things. To just test the waters, your interviewer could first interview you about your experience in working with Excel, or even a few enumeration questions about Excel so they can see how proficient you are with working with the app. A couple of common Excel interview questions that you could be asked are the following. What is meant by relative and absolute references? What is the difference between a function and a formula? What is a VLOOKUP and how do you use it, or what is the syntax of the VLOOKUP? What is a pivot table and how do you create a drop-down list in Excel? In-depth answers to all of these questions can be found in simplesheets.co, where we have tons of guides on different topics on Excel and Google Sheets. Check out the link down below. The second method of testing is a bit more specific to the role you're applying for, and it would more often than not be a practical exam. You're usually sent a sample file which contains a spreadsheet and some instructions which you need to complete in a set amount of time, whether on your own or under supervision via screen share, or it could even be done on Google Sheets, so the proctor could monitor the changes made to the sheet. Depending on the nature of the job, you could be looking at doing data encoding and processing, which focuses on cleaning data and being able to enter any format in cells in a timely manner. Or data processing or data analysis, which puts an emphasis on how to use functions and formulas to answer a business question. The first type kind of looks like this. You'd be presented with a data table with raw data that looks less than ideal. We're asked to clean the data that we're given to make it a bit more presentable and to separate them by first name, last name, and phone number. So, what can we do? Well, for starters, we can see that we've got a bunch of extra spaces in between, as well as there might be some non-printable characters that might mess up our formulas later on. So we can start with the trim and clean functions to remove the extra spaces and any and all hidden non-printable characters. Be sure to check out our How to Remove Dashes and Other Unwanted Characters video for more tips and functions you can use to clean your data. Once we've done that, we can see that things seem to be in a better place. Next, we need to deal with the jagged capitalization in the names. We can use the proper function. This function formats text just like proper nouns. That being, the first letter is capitalized and the succeeding letters are in lowercase. So we enter the function in the next cell and drag it down. We can actually condense these two columns by nesting our proper function inside the trim function, so it saves us a column. But for now, we'll retain this column so that when we're given new data, this column automatically processes it. To get a fresh copy of our data, we can copy and paste it as values. We can use the shortcut Ctrl+C to copy and Ctrl+V to paste. But as we see here, it doesn't exactly show what we want because we need to paste it as values. To do that, we can see here that the paste options is still available. So we can press Ctrl, and to paste as values, we need to press V again. Alternatively, we can get the same result by pressing Alt-HVV. Now that we have our values, we can get to work separating them. There's a plethora of ways to do this. We can do this manually, which is unideal, especially when you're talking about a timed exam. We can also use text functions like left, mid, right, and find to extract each one. The quickest way to do this is by using the text to columns tool. Let's select our data and press Alt-AE, or head into the Data tab, and Text to Columns is right here. This opens up the Convert Text to Columns wizard. Let's retain the selection since our data is delimited and press Next. In the next step, let's select our delimiter, or the value or character that separates the text. In this case, it's a space, so we select that. In the bottom portion, we can see a preview of how our data will be divided by. In the next portion, let's select where we want our data to be placed after being split up. Once we press Finish, we can see that the data has already been split up. We can then format this however we like. Be sure to check out our custom number formatting guide to see how you can spice up your Excel values. Next, we go into the data processing or data analysis type questions. Again, these would focus more on answering a business question. In our very simple sample data, it asks us to get the total sales per representative and create a simple dashboard that shows the total sales with a drop-down list. These types of questions will most often require you to have basic knowledge on the following: SUMIFs, lookup functions, whether VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, or index and match, and data validation. Sometimes, in scenarios like these, the obvious easy way of doing it is by just using a pivot table. But interviewers would want you to go through the motions of extracting data using functions to see your problem-solving skills. To get this ball rolling, we can start by setting up a list of all our sales reps. We could list them one by one, but a better way of extracting the unique names from the list is by using the unique function. Type in =unique and select the entire rep column. Now that we have this, we can now create our SUMIFs function. The SUMIFs function can add multiple cells based on multiple criteria, and it follows this syntax. First, we want the sum range, which is the total row. Once we reference that, we want to press F4 to lock it in place to create an absolute reference, as we don't want the referenced cells to move once we move this formula down. Then, we want the criteria range. This tells the function to add the total in the same row as the criteria if it matches the condition we'll set. For that, we select the entire rep column, and again pressing F4 to make sure it's an absolute reference. The last thing we need is the criteria. It's basically what the function checks by. For that, we can select the name to the left. To recap, the SUMIFs function will add the amount if the value in the row is the same to the cell right here. After that, we can drag the formula down, giving us the total sales for each of our representatives. First part is complete. Next, we need to create a simple dashboard where it gives the sales figure based on a drop-down list value. First, let's create a drop-down list. Be sure to check out our video that talks all about drop-down lists in Excel. To create a drop-down list in Excel, we select the cell we want to add the drop-down list in. Head into Data and click Data Validation or this icon. In the Data Validation pane, select the list in the Allow box. This tells Excel that what it's referencing is an array function, and to include the other names in the list. A pro of doing this is if the list changes, so will your drop-down list automatically. Now we have a drop-down list. Now we just need a formula to show the sales figure corresponding to the drop-down list selection. For this, we can use a simple VLOOKUP. This looks up values based on, again, a certain criteria. In the cell beside our drop-down, let's type in equals VLOOKUP. The first thing we need is a lookup value. This is our search criteria. We can select the cell that contains our drop-down because we want it to search for whatever is selected. Next, we need the table array. That's the table where the function will return the value from. It's always a good practice to lock in the table array. Next, we need the column index number, which is the position of the values we want to return. In our table, the sales figures are on the second column, so we write number 2. Lastly, we add a 0 for it to return an exact match. There you have it. Every time you pick a different person, the sales figure changes to the corresponding values. Now, granted that these are very rudimentary questions, other Excel exam questions can include finding discrepancies between cells or tables, and other Excel functions such as using conditional formatting, creating charts, and many more. Don't worry though if we don't cover all of those in this video, because if you head over to simplesheets.co, you'll be able to find tons of useful articles and videos that talk about everything there is to talk about in Excel. With that, congratulations on passing your Excel interview or examination. As always, let us know if you found this video useful by leaving us a like, and make sure you subscribe to Simple Sheets for more Excel and Google Sheets tips and templates. I'll see you on the next one.